YouTube, it's Thought-Provoking Sunday. Stay tuned. I got some interesting facts and some thoughts that just might help you go from a no you can't or can't be done to a yeah I can do this. Stay tuned. Hey, what's up YouTube? This is Racing's Natural Aquariums coming to you on a Sunday. Hope everybody had a great weekend and are doing well. It's kind of an impromptu video. DPK Aquariums, and before I go into what I'm going to say, stop by, check out his channel and show him some fish fam love. I posted a video the other day, which some of you may have seen about Leave It or Not, with regards to keeping plants in their pots and rock wool, and my thoughts on the subject. So DPK had commented on the video, and he got me thinking, and I responded to what he said, and I thought I would kind of share my thoughts with regards to kind of what I said to him in my reply. But a caveat to that video, for those who have seen it, when it comes to leaving the plants in the pots, I definitely would not recommend doing so with root feeders such as Amazon swords, crypts, things like that. They do need to get into your substrate because that's how they feed. With a stem plant, I don't really see an issue. So, at any rate, I digress. But with response to what I had said to DPK about provoking thought and the aquariums in general and the no you can't do it attitude, got me thinking, if it wasn't for somebody that was told they can't do something, we probably wouldn't have this hobby today. So let's go way back in time, back to 1832. A French-born naturalist named Jean Villeproax in 1832 actually created the first aquarium. Further along in 1836, Dr. Nathaniel Bradshaw, I think it's Bradshaw Wary, I'm not too sure, but I definitely know it's Nathan Bradshaw, proposed to use his tanks for fishing, for fish. And what he had done back in that time was he basically used aquatic plants and toy fish, and then later on in 1841 he actually housed tropical fish in his tanks. That was his original thought, but he started with plants, toy fish, and then eventually evolved to tropical fish. So if you think back, 1832 through 1834, the art of fish keeping came about. So kind of in response to what DPK Aquarium, my response to him was that, people are so quick to say you can't do this, you can't do that. Yes, there are certain situations that, yes, you just, there's just no way possible. Either the fish won't survive or a plant won't survive. But I honestly think that's far and few in between. I actually think that there's a lot of things that you can do, which, who would have thought in 1832 making a container, and actually she was the first one to come up with a glass container for fish. And, then the doctor came along and he decided that, he was going to do something similar and actually created a planted tank. And then soon after added fish. So had those folks followed that adage of, you can't do it, we wouldn't have fish today. So, if somebody tells you you can't do something, to me, if you really want to challenge somebody, tell them you can't do something and watch how quick they prove you wrong. I mean, there are several situations within our hobbies that use an air stone, don't use an air stone, leave the plant in the pot, don't leave the plant in the pot. You can't put this fish with that fish, and you can't put this fish in that tank. And with that actual piece being said, I mean, granted, there are things that you really have to use common sense. Are you really going to put an Oscar, a full-grown Oscar in a 5-gallon tank? No. Can it be done? Yes. Is it ethical? I would say no. If you want to go to the store and you buy them and they're the size of a $50, yeah, you can put them in there, depending on the tank size. And as they start to grow, then rehome them. I mean, that's something that can be done, but you really have to use common sense when it comes to, what you can and can't do. You definitely don't want to harm your fish. You don't want to create an environment which is eventually going to kill them or make you lose interest in the hobby. So if somebody tells you you can't do something, prove them wrong. I know on Facebook there's a lot of pages where people are like, well, you can't do it, or, my way's the only way. Well, had our predecessors in the 1800s had that mindset, again, the hobby wouldn't be here. So that was kind of my response to APK's or DBK's reply back to my video. So, I mean, there are things that you can do if you use your head. And as we all know, when it comes to the fish hobby, research and knowledge is key. Go to the library, get an old book, see how things were done there, and see if you can improve upon something that was done, back in the early days of the hobby, back when they had metaframe tanks, the big metal frame tanks, with I remember in my principal's office in my elementary school, him having a tank, which was probably, if I remember, about a 20, 30 gallon tank with what was the shape of a hang-on back, but it was actually a hang-on-the-back sump pump, which, of course, me not knowing anything as a kid, I pulled the hose out and proceeded to drain the tank out on its floor, so such is life. But, try it. If it works, that's great, and don't be afraid to share it with people. If it doesn't work, again, don't be afraid to share it with people. I've tried the pot, leaving the plants in the pot, and I had picked up an octo plant and an Apongegeton crispus, and actually in a video I mentioned that, or in a comment on a Facebook post to saying that you have to remove it, showed them a picture. I backed up what I said with proof. Now, at that time, in the pot, my crispus shot out 2 flowers. And then I just noticed here towards the middle of last week, I've already got another flower coming out, and it's still in the pot. And my reasoning is that when I dose liquid ferts, that that wool actually holds the fert in order to allow it to feed off of its stem, as opposed to a root feeder, which is going to feed from its roots, which enters in root tabs. And I think there was another page where that question came up, and people are like, you don't need root tabs, it's overkill. Well, in my opinion, and my opinion only, it made a difference in my plants. My swords and my crypts are growing quite well. They have no problem growing up through some of the mass plants that I have in my tank. So in my experience and experimentation, it's worked. And I encourage you all, especially newbies in the hobby, to experiment, see what works. Research it, ask questions, and then decide, if it's something that you really want to try to do. I mean, like Susan from SLC Aquatics, creating strains of guppies. Corey's latest video, putting potus in your hang-on backs, or even hanging off the side of your tanks. I have friends that do it to this day, and I've done it in the past. And you use those to help tanks that have high nitrates that you just, have to do so many water changes that you're going to upset the cycle and probably cause your tank to mini cycle. You might be able to use that method in your tank and help reduce those nitrates even more. So there again, somebody thought, well, hey, what if I throw this plant in my tank? It'll look nice. not realizing that they took that chance, and then all of a sudden somebody else said, hey, wait a minute, my nitrate levels are down. What did I do different? Oh, that's right, I put that plant in my HOB, or I hung it off the back of my tank. Not only do I have a beautiful vine growing around the top of my tank now, but my nitrates are low. So, take that chance. When it comes to fish, though, before you pull the trigger on something like that, definitely do the research, ask around, and see if it's feasible and you're not going to hurt your fish or your invertebrates or whatever you have in your tank. So, the beginning of my comment to DBK was, I thanked him, and I also said I like to try to provoke thought. We can't evolve if we don't think, and even more so if we don't try. If you make a right turn and you keep making right turns, all you're doing is going in a circle. So there are times that you have to make that left and then go straight so that you don't go into another circle. So I guess what I'm trying to say, Fish Fam, and to everybody watching is, don't take no and don't take can't do it as an answer. Research it and see if it is actually a valid response, or with some tweaking, that can't can be a can and the no can be a yes. So with that, I will leave you to enjoy the rest of your weekend. Thank you for stopping by, and please feel free to comment, subscribe, and like. Again, Racing's Fish Tanks, Natural Aquariums out. Peace, God bless, and keep those sleeves wet.